Hey, friends, just want to take a moment before today's episode to say thank you for your patience with us as we took the last week off due to an injury from my co host, Mr. Wesley Cannon here. He ended up hitting his noggin during a ski trip, but he is recovered and back to robot status. Very happy to have you back, Wes. Thank you for not leaving me for long.
Absolutely. And no malfunctions yet. I mean, time will tell. But
You do
yeah,
look a bit uglier, but
hey, you would say that no matter what. So
that's very fair. And guys, today we have a very special episode, a very special guest. His name is Jared Alderman. If you're not familiar with Jared, he is a high stakes cash game player, but also a performance coach. We've actually already had this conversation with him. We're recording this post, and I will say that this is a very wide ranging, a very deep conversation, and I'm very excited for you all to hear it. Jared has a very interesting past where he's Navy SEAL trained, went through Hell Week, also was an EOD specialist. Those are the guys that like defuse bombs and stuff. So he's got a lot of experience in high pressure situations, which definitely translates into the poker environment. So I guess without further ado, we hope you enjoy this very wide, very awesome, and exciting conversation with Mr. Jared Alderman.
All right, so we're going to start with a pretty open-ended question here. Jared, what does it mean to be a good poker player?
Ooh, this is a good question. Yeah, I mean, I think this is a pretty personal question.
Kind of a hard one to start with as well.
Well, I think it's a good thing because this is something that I bring up in my work with people because how we relate to this concept of good poker player really does do a lot of heavy lifting for how we experience ourselves at the poker table itself. Many of us have different ideas of what it should feel like or what it should look like to be a good poker player. And whatever that answer is for yourself, you probably will find a lot of tension and conflict if you're having moments or experiences that seem to contradict that definition for yourself. So, it might be that you believe a good poker player is calm and kind of unemotional or, just very steady. And you find yourself having a difficult emotional experience, which is very normal and very human. It's very easy to start judging yourself and be like, well, if I'm reacting this way, I must not be a good poker player. But even on things more tangible, like a good poker player doesn't make mistakes. A good poker player wins money, and so you're in a downswing, and it's like, am I still good? I actually think the answer to what is a good poker player is more difficult to answer and more open-ended than a lot of people would like to believe. And I think a lot of our grasp for like clarity and certainty and knowledge will lead people to feel like they have a definition for that when they really don't. Because when I've worked with people who are in the middle of downswings, like, I don't know if I'm good anymore. It's often like, well, what does that even mean? Like, how would you even know how you would define that? And when you really push people, it becomes really challenging for them to answer it. And so I guess in the spirit of that, I would like to leave it somewhat open-ended and let people feel permission to leave it open-ended, and that there actually is kind of a mystery to it. To quote the politician, I can't remember who said this, but it's like porn. You know it when you see it. And
that's the answer I was looking for.
Yeah. I think that's what we're all trying to get at here.
Okay.
But yeah, I would urge people to connect more with their qualities that they believe will make them be successful at poker, and less on a clear external definition of what it is. So if you find yourself being a creative person, creativity can be an incredible quality for success at poker. If you think you're a very disciplined person, these can look like very two different things. And a disciplined person can often feel like they're not creative enough, and a creative person can often feel like they're not disciplined enough. But you just have to be who you are and then apply the qualities you have at your disposal at the game. And I think the best poker players will do that the best.
I think a lot of people struggle with that because they see someone else's success and think that like they'll try and mock them and see that what their success is and try and copy that. And I think that can also, like you were mentioning, we need to find what success is to us and not what it looks like, what that looks like to other people or looks like to us as other people have it. That's not articulated well. But do you think that identity can cap your performance?
Yes, I think it can. I think it's difficult because I think some people, depending on yeah, again, you can have people who just have this natural their identity naturally overlaps with people's perspective of a good poker player. So you take a guy like Phil Galfond. I think Phil Galfond's natural human tendencies align very well with people's idea of a good poker player in a lot of ways. And so like I think you can have an identity that culturally fits within a definition of what many people will look at and see as a good poker player. And then so you can just run into very little friction in your journey. But if you tend to be someone who doesn't fit that archetype or that sort of cookie cutter idea, I'm sure Phil has had his challenges with identity as well. I don't want to make assumptions there, but if you happen to be someone who doesn't fit that archetype, it can be really difficult. It can be very natural to feel like you have to change who you are or struggle with your sense of identity in order to be successful. Instead of just trying to figure out what I think anyone who finds their way in poker eventually finds it as themselves, and whatever that means, you know. And so if you were to ask me, like, I guess good to go back to your first question of like what it means to be a good poker player, it almost certainly looks more like you being who you are than you being who someone else is. And you have to find the way to make who you are work within poker. And it may be the case that like who you are actually doesn't want to play poker. That's also, I've had many clients who I've worked with at the conclusion of our working together has actually been an acceptance of, I actually don't want to be playing this game. I don't even know why. I've been trying to prove that I do.
Well, and that might be a win right there, right? I mean,
it is a big win. Yeah.
You're stepping on past something that you shouldn't be doing then in that case.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in your first response, you talked about judging yourself a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Do you work with clients on learning to not judge themselves, or maybe instead of judging to just sort of analyze and reflect?
Yeah, I think I work with clients to be themselves, right? The word be is really important because I think I just had a session with someone this morning actually, and we were talking about this experience that many people are familiar with where it feels like you have some strong emotion or some strong feeling arise in the game, and it very much feels like a force from the outside that kind of comes at you.
I felt that a lot.
Right? Yeah. And what this is a good sign of is your relationship with that feeling, and that you have a feeling arises in you that you have yet to have integrated into who you are. And so we're fighting it. When anything that arises within us feels like a force from the outside, the feeling as the force from the outside is itself just a feeling. That's not actually true. It's arising within you, right? Mm-hmm. Like where else could it come from but within you? But we have yet to adapt a view of ourselves that allows us to feel this way. And so that feeling comes up, and let's say it's just loss and sadness, right? Like I'm just upset from having lost a hand and I don't like it. And some identity we have says like, no, we have to be strong. Yes. We have to be resilient. Yes. We have to be this. And so that feeling comes up, and it's like that contradicts my view of myself. That feeling is now my enemy. Like I'm at war with this feeling because I don't know how to make this work with it myself.
I love that a lot. Can I share an experience I had with you actually just yesterday, and maybe see how we can reflect that upon what we were talking about?
Yeah, I'd love that. Yeah.
So yesterday we were, and this relates to poker, here in Minnesota where Wes and I are from, we have every month or so, our local casino has a nice around $500 buy-in multi-day tournament. Wes and I both made day 2, so we're in the money in day 2. 500 something entries. There's roughly 40 left or something. Doesn't really matter at this point. But what happens is I'm in flow state I'm at the beginning of the day. I'm in flow state. Things are going my way. I'm really enjoying and confident in my game. There came a point where it folds to me on the button. My opponents in the big blind had roughly 14 big blinds, and the small blind had even less than him. I had 48 bigs with King 10-0 on the button. I'm thinking here I was kind of in autopilot in the moment, and I'm thinking that my play should have been jam, but in the moment I just did a standard min open where I wanted to kind of put a lot of pressure on any sort of low ace X's where they couldn't rejam on me, and then I'd have to fold my hand. So I went on autopilot and I just min opened, big blind jammed, and I had to fold my hand. at that moment, something changed in me where I was all of a sudden fighting these external forces. Like I felt like I was in flow state. And then out of nowhere, I felt like this one small decision I just made put a complete, I all of a sudden am hitting a wall and I'm not able to recover from it. Um,
Even though now you just have 38 big blinds.
Yeah, it literally
kind of
had
the
not.
same
It
thing.
didn't change my trajectory in the tournament, like in terms of like numbers, but like something in that moment completely changed the way I felt. My confidence went from top notch. I felt like I was to like bottom above the barrel, and my flow state was just gone. And coincidentally, from that moment, my success started dropping. I couldn't win hands. I don't know if I necessarily say I didn't play well, but I definitely didn't feel well. What kind of advice could you give to someone to recover from that, I guess?
Well, first, I just thank you and appreciate your sharing about this. Like, and anytime we share experience about something like this, I think it's a vulnerable thing to do, and I appreciate it. I have a big background in meditation. I don't know if people are aware of that or not, but I've sat many meditation retreats and have had many teachers. And I remember one of my teachers, if it's normal to sit, like you can have a particular sitting in meditation. If you're on a retreat, you're doing, you're sitting a lot, but you can have like a really great sit where just like things feel like you just feel very open, very positive, right? Like, and it's very common for people then to try to always be trying to get back to that state. And my teacher used to say, which was so fun. I just always thought it was so funny. Like, yeah, nothing can ruin 10 years of meditation like an amazing sit. And I always bring this up to people in flow states. Like nothing can ruin a playing session like a flow state. And this is why I don't work in flow states with people. It's this exact reason. Everyone's trying to get to a flow state. But flow states, by definition, anything that arises is impermanent, so it will pass. It's very natural for it to pass. And also, it's very easy to cling to the flow state as a better version of who I am.
100% felt that way, yes.
Right? And it's impersonal. Like the flow state happening has nothing to do with who you are. Right? This is just an impersonal thing. It's going to happen when it happens. And you might play great or you might feel great. And the truth is we don't really know, right? Like we don't know the difference, right?
Yeah.
Am I truly playing much better or do I just feel better about it?
Yeah.
I don't really know. But what's interesting to me is then, it's the same thing. Right now there's this experience that happened where things didn't go right. And to me, it sounds like maybe we just overlooked something. Even in the midst of a flow state can happen.
Yeah.
Right? And the question is, how much do I allow myself to be someone who just overlooks something?
Yeah.
That's it. Like I just overlooked it. And like
that's exactly what I did. I overlooked it 100%.
Yeah. But that's okay. Right?
But for some reason it hit me so hard and now like I was negative. I went from a positive mindset to a negative mindset and I really struggled to recover from that. And like I don't coincidence or not, like it ended up me busting shortly after, right? And I don't want to specifically blame it on that decision, but I noticed from the moment I went from positive to negative, things just didn't go well.
Well, let's say it was that is what happened. That you went into a negative mental state, and you were trying to force things or not. What you're experiencing, and this is a common thread, you're just experiencing loss, right? You're experiencing, even if it's just loss of a mental state that you enjoyed and that you liked, and like loss is hard. It's hard. It's hard to live in a world as people where things aren't forever, right? That's just hard. And it's completely natural to experience loss and to go through a grief period and to try to get that back. To like, I just want to be back there. And for behavior to line up to try to get back there. Right? And so like what's really happening as a human being is there's just like a need being expressed. Like you're grieving. And as a human. And it's so easy for us to start framing it all in terms of EV and poker play and all this stuff. But when that happens, when we're not really coming closer to the experience, like imagine if in that moment you got jammed on, you overlooked something, and the flow state leaves. If you could have just taken a moment to be like, I'm in a new mental state now, and I don't quite like it as much. But this is what it is. And maybe I could just let myself not like it. And like I actually think this is a kind of flow state, like really flowing with experience, truly in flow, right? With a flow of the coming and going of flow, right? Just like this comes, it goes. That is, in my experience, more stable, more reliable, when I can just let myself be whatever is here in this moment.
So accept what's out of our control, essentially. Not try and force things. Does that make sense? Or is that align with what you're saying?
I mean, kind of. I think the spirit of what I'm trying to say is more, can we get out of doing anything for a point? And what is it like just to be a human being in this moment? Can I just drop my identity as a poker player? Right? Like, flow state leaves. I'm actually now just in pain. Like, this sucks. Yeah. Like, I felt great, and now it hurts to not be in flow. Can I just, like, for a second, not try to enact a strategy?
Okay.
Right? Not try to enact, you know, I mean, like, if you're my friend and you came to me and you're like, oh, I was in flow, and like, now I'm not, and I just don't even know if I can play as well now. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? I just be like, dude, that's hard.
Thank you.
Like, that's hard. That sucks, man. Yeah, it's hard. That's a hard experience.
I appreciate that a lot. Yeah. I mean, it's in those moments, and it's like, I think I have these expectations too when things are going so well. Like, you see, like, I'm kind of dialed in, I'm tuned for a deep run, and then it kind of all leaves me. And like you said, it's just me, when that moment kind of fleets, then all of a sudden I'm having this, what's the word you used? Grievance.
Just loss. Yeah.
Well,
I was going to ask too, because Jared, most of our listeners and us too, we play more tournaments than cash probably. And I feel like in poker tournaments, it's not the times you bust out in level 2 that hurt the most. It's when the expectation for a deep run gets so high, and then you just end up bubbling, or you min cash or whatever it is. And so based on what you're saying, it sounds like it's like that's because the gap, so to speak, between your expectation and the outcome, that's the biggest.
Yeah.
Basically.
But also it's also just because you want to win.
Yeah.
Right? And you're getting closer. And that's the thing. It's like, again, it's easy to approach these things like, okay, well, how do I not feel this pain? You know, how do I, maybe if I just lower my expectations, then I won't hurt this much. I'm like, it's true. But guess what else? You won't care as much when you win.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so deeply caring about something and something really hurting when it doesn't go your way are really deeply connected with each other. Things will only hurt when you really care. And so, like, it hurting is not a problem to be fixed, right? It's an experience to be opened to, because it's just a sign of what you care about and what matters to you.
I love that.
So then from a standpoint of, you know, for us, for our listeners, how do we play our best in these moments when we're having these feelings? You know, for example, Max's situation yesterday, or, you know, I know everyone's experienced that, where it's like the moment the expectation, or you feel whatever, something change inside you. How do you play your best in spite of all of it?
Yeah. One, I would also indicate that you're probably playing closer to how you typically play than you realize, even when things change. I think it's very easy to tell a story that a lot has changed, but there's just like there's a lot of variance in poker, right? So it's very difficult to actually know that this shift in feelings did change the way I play. So that's one. But that can actually be an uncomfortable fact, right? Like, people can want to know what caused this thing to happen, you know. But the main thing I would indicate is you need to start each moment as a human first. And like, you play poker. Poker fits into your life. Poker serves you. You don't serve poker, right? Like, poker is something that might matter to you, and that you do to be happy, you do to pursue your goals, you do to pursue your enjoyment or your whatever. But it's so easy to make ourselves like a poker player first. And so when you're going through something difficult, it's so easy to be like, okay, how do I play my best? Instead of like, how do I take care of myself? Right? Like, if we start sacrificing our well-being to become a better poker player, then nothing in poker will ever be worth it by definition. Right?
Agreed. Yeah.
And so you have to find a way to build success in poker around your well-being first.
Okay.
You have to. And so, coincidentally, I also think it's the best way to play your best.
I love that. I think that's very important, because a lot of people don't do that.
Yeah. But so that being said, whatever is happening in any moment, any impulse to act in a moment, like let's say you just want to fold in a big spot or you just want to run in a crazy bluff, I would ask yourself, like, there's some need as a human being expressed right now. Some need. Like, maybe I'm just scared of this spot. Maybe I'm just scared. Like, and that's and so I would learn to start there. Like, I'm just saying to yourself, like, man, I just feel really scared. Like, can I just have a moment where I feel scared?
Yeah.
And I don't need to fix that feeling. And I think what people will find is the more that you allow yourself to feel however you feel, the less your behavior will be to try to change the way you feel. So therefore, you will find more freedom in what you want to do. Because when you ran that bluff where you felt like you autopiloted and just like punted it off, it's almost certainly because your behavior was the only way you knew how to take care of the way you felt.
Okay.
Right? And if the more that you have internal methods of looking after yourself, of caring for yourself, of looking after the things that you need, the less you will need to act in order to regulate yourself. If that makes sense.
Yes.
That makes a lot of sense. It's just like being present and identifying the emotions. Opposed to trying to do something to fix it. And I think in a specific poker example, we've all seen and probably all done the thing where maybe you get coolered, you lose a big pot, and then let's say you were a favorite, you were a big favorite and got sucked out on. There's probably some feeling where you need to fix that by doubling up in the next few hands. So
which is a mistake, right?
That's when people look to make something happen sometimes.
But even then, I just want to cut in because it's not a mistake. Please. It's a natural human response to loss, right? It's a very natural human response to loss. And again, I wrote a newsletter recently, and the topic of the newsletter was about the difference between caring about something as an object versus caring about something as a subject. And when you're caring about something as an object, it's like an obstacle in your way, right? And I think we've all experienced this from somebody who superficially shows care about us, but they really just don't like the way we feel, maybe, and it's causing them distress. And so they want to fix our feelings so that they can feel better, right? Like I think a lot of people have experienced that. But a lot of people have also experienced, or maybe less so, unfortunately, care as a subject where someone cares about you as you, right? And if they try to do something to help you and it doesn't help, they're still engaged, right? It's information to them. They still care. It's not like, oh, I want you to get better, and when you don't get better, I'm mad at you or something. But we need to care about ourselves in this way better, right? Oftentimes we care about our own experiences as objects, as obstacles, and we try to do these things, and when our experience isn't fixed, we're like frustrated with ourselves. But if you care about yourself as a subject, when you attempt to do something to make yourself feel better and it doesn't take, that's just more data about what it is you need. And like, okay, this isn't quite what I need. What do I need? What is it that I actually need in this moment? And, I have a son. He's 4 now. He's almost 5. But I remember the first time he was like early learning to walk. And I remember the first time he was running and running down this hill, so happy, right? Just elated with joy. And then he tripped and smashes his face into the ground. And I remember just watching, not just the pain of like, obviously he hit his face, but the complete confusion of how do I go from like deep joy to now like more pain I've ever felt in my life, right? And as humans, or as we get older, we have ways of normalizing this experience as not horribly traumatic, but it is jarring. And as poker players, we've basically said we're going to choose to have this experience over and over and over again, where I get into a spot where I expect to win. I think this is going to be a great day. And then I don't. And we have learned in our lives how to relate to that experience. And more of us, too many of us, unfortunately, did not have people around that when we experience that kind of jarring shift to say, it's like, yeah, that was fucking scary.
Yeah.
Right? Like when I saw that happen to my son, I was just like, yeah, it was really hard. But more often, a lot of us probably had parents who were stressed by our own concern. And so that's how we treat ourselves. right? So like we're expecting to win and then we lose. And instead of being like, yeah, it's really hard to think something's going to go one way and it goes another. Instead of treating ourselves that way, we're like, oh, what is wrong with me that I can't just be okay with this?
So is the path to moving forward thinking thinking of it as subjectively instead of objectively then, so that we can try and improve for the next time we experience that emotion?
I think so. I mean, it can. I think all of these are just kind of frames, you know. Like I give out a lot just because whatever clicks with somebody, you know. Again, the measure of if this is the move path forward is in your own experience. It's not in my words, right? If you were my client and I was like, you know, think of it subjectively, and it just agitated you, I'd be like, okay, stop thinking about it subjectively, right?
That's
I'd be like,
fair.
stop doing that. And that's the thing. It's like it's learning to attune to yourself and like, what do I need? What do I really need in this moment?
Okay.
And like learning to listen deeply to your own experience. And the answer can be quite dynamic. This is why I often encourage people to get coaching in the space, because it's the nuances of every situation are a little different. You know,
Okay.
there's no blanket answer. But you know, sometimes it's a relational thing. Sometimes you need support from somebody else. Sometimes the thing that you need, right? Sometimes you need to text a friend and be like, this thing happened and it sucked. Sometimes you need to just take a walk. Sometimes, I don't know, but like attuning to yourself. And then when something doesn't make you feel better, there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you, right? That's the biggest thing. It's like when something hurts, that experience can't be wrong.
Okay.
And when you try to help yourself, the desire to help yourself, whatever it is, can't be wrong, even if it's trying to get your money back. Now, the answer, though, the funny thing is, many of the things that we say, like, well, I don't want to do that. Well, yeah, but you can also, if you bring your attention to, did it actually help you feel better? The answer will almost always be no. Like when I chased that loss and tried to make that money back, I didn't feel good the entire time I was doing that, you know? And so actually, when you attune to yourself better, you also stop doing the destructive things that just hurt you more.
That
Itself,
okay.
right?
I'm glad that I feel like we reached the peak on this, or maybe not the peak, but we reached the conclusion I was seeking in this answer. Right? It's like,
Right.
yeah, okay, that makes a lot of sense, because I did want to bounce back to Wes's question there. Like, imagine that guy that was, you know, just had a big loss even though he was ahead, and now he's trying to chase that back. Imagine he was one of your clients. What is something quick you would tell him? And it sounds like, I mean, now we got that answer. So
Kind of, but I wouldn't tell him that, right? And that's the interesting thing is if he came back and he was like, I tried to chase my loss, I'd be like, how did that feel?
yeah.
That's all I would say.
And the answer is,
Right.
it's okay for however you felt.
Right. It's okay that you did it more. It's not even like, that's the thing. It's so easy for us to be like, well, I did this thing that's obviously bad. So how do I fix that thing I did?
So do you think that the learning from it comes naturally then, or what's your, so we kind of, you know, figured out that the feelings that we're feeling are okay, but I mean, is it wrong for us to then want to improve on that? And what's your answer to that, I guess?
Well, I guess I don't know how you improve on a feeling, right? Like that's to me is a strange thing. And usually what we all have is imposed on us social ideas about how we ought to feel in certain situations. Right.
Yeah.
This is actually why I'm drawn to Buddhism in particular, because they draw a very clear distinction morally from behavior and feelings.
Okay.
With Christianity, which, you know, a lot of Judeo-Christian beliefs filter into a lot of Western culture. And, you know, you have something like Jesus saying that, like, if you've ever had lust in your heart, you've committed adultery, or anyone who's had a hate in their heart has committed murder. Right. That's what Jesus says. In Buddhism, it's like, no, there's a clear big difference between a feeling you have and an action you take, right? There's clearly to have no feeling is a crime, or morally wrong.
Agreed.
And I mean, even in Buddhism, technically, the line of morality of right and wrong is much more about wisdom and ignorance. It's more about what you know and what you don't know than it is about like moral good.
Okay.
But that's why I'm drawn to it, is because this idea that like, I don't even know what it would mean to improve on your feelings. But let's say the guy chased his losses and he was like, no, it felt great. And I was like, okay, are you okay with the fact that this probably will lose you money and make playing poker unsustainable for you?
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I'm fine with that. It was worth it.
then it's probably not a bad experience, right?
Yeah,
He's probably rich and doesn't have.
I mean, even if he's not, right? It's like, this is your decision.
Yeah.
Right. This is not mine. I'm not here to judge. And if we want to be, because how we started was talking about integrating these experiences into ourselves. And a lot of that has to come from individuation, the sense that I get to decide what is a good decision and a bad one. I get to, not you, and, so much of, like it's up to you. Like if you want to, even as myself, like I talk a lot about mental health. I do a lot of internal work with people. If you see the way I respond to some negative comments on my YouTube, you might think I'm not all that grounded. I think I troll people pretty hard on my YouTube channel.
I'm gonna have to go dig into that now, by the way.
You'll see. But like some people have been like, wow, like coming from like a spiritual guy, and I'm like, can I swear on this?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. You can go fuck yourself. Like I don't care what, like I don't care what you think of my emotional maturity or whatever. Like it's not for you. I could give two shits, to be honest.
Tell me if this is maybe very far off or maybe kind of close, but it's not necessarily whether it's, oh God, how did I have this in my head? Positive or negative. It's just whether you're at peace with the experience or not. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I guess it's how do you, again, are you whole in these moments? That's the thing I use a lot, right? Because the thing is about us as people is we have all kinds of competing desires and intentions, right? And one of the things that's so hurtful for us is when our experience of loss suddenly takes us over and overwhelms us and is now completely the one in the driver's seat. So we're chasing a loss, and that experience wanting something is fine and it acting on it is fine, but it often leaves much of you in the back seat that doesn't want this experience, that doesn't want to do this, right?
You know what makes me feel really whole is running an extremely large triple barrel bluff against my friend Wesley and then being able to windmill it when he folds the river.
Of course,
That is fulfillment.
Well, you'll try over and over and over. So I'll keep calling you down.
He does call most of the time. It doesn't work.
One time you get to show it.
I think all those failures makes the few times I succeed, Wes, even far more valuable to my experience.
Yeah, I believe that.
Wes and I have he's my best friend and I love him to death, but there's nothing that makes me happier than just torturing him when there's two cards in front of each of us, Man, or four for that matter.
I love. Do you guys play PLO?
Yeah, occasionally. He doesn't play as much as I do, and I don't play a ton, but we do dabble.
Yeah, I love trolling friends at the poker table.
It's a safe space to do that. We do say we have a Suited Kings meetup game every other week on Clubs Poker, which is an online platform, and I tell all of our listeners and friends when they play it, it's a safe place to troll, to slow roll, and do all the things you want because everyone else is frowned upon.
Rolling is very encouraged in that game.
It is, and no one gets upset about it.
Worst poker Max and I will ever play too.
Yeah, it's all about splashing and having fun.
You know what's funny is when slow rolling gets too encouraged, though, it loses its spice a bit because you just know that people are slow rolling you. Like there's an amount of time bank. You're like, I'm just being slow rolled right now.
When someone taps the time bank early in a $50 tournament on an all in, it's like, oh no.
They have the nuts.
God, by the way, go ahead.
I got to reverse slow roll someone in an ACR tournament once where they slow rolled me. So they had top boat in a spot where I had quads.
Okay.
And they thought they were slow rolling me, and then they called and got shown quads.
I love it.
And it was I didn't know this person, but I think I was streaming at the time or something. But
that's hard to do.
Some people knew, but yeah.
That's funny.
The reverse slow rolls, that is definitely next level.
I mean, it's a high. I don't know. I just assume people are only going to slow roll in spots where they know they have the nut. Maybe this guy just thought he had the nuts,
and also I got to give a mad shout out. Wes knows him. Our boy Jinch. He's Taylor Moss. He's I'm not sure if you know him or not, but anyways, we were, what was it? What tournament? It was online yesterday and one of the bigger ones. I don't remember which one it was, but so early position opens two bigs. He flats in mid position, two bigs. I jam roughly, I want to say it was like roughly 24 bigs with
It was
jacks.
23 because he sent me a screenshot.
Oh, he did, yeah. I
He
jammed
says
20.
time bank activated.
Oh
And it
my
shows his
God.
time bank going all the way down. And he has
This isn't a meetup game. This is like an actual tournament. It folds all the way back to him, and he got to his time bank. And when his time bank got to about like 25% used, I'm like, oh, here it is. It's the solo.
Yeah.
As you were mentioning earlier.
Yeah.
Shout out to him. He had aces. I busted the tournament, and it was funny. Like I sent him a message afterwards. It was, it was a good time. I do want to continue this conversation. I do want to learn a little bit more about you and your poker experience.
Sure.
Before that, I'd like to ask a question that I found, very interesting, especially coming from someone who's a mindset coach. What is kind of the equity value, or how much percentage is important in terms of mindset versus actual technical skill in poker?
So I consider myself, there's a reason I don't call myself actually a mindset coach. I call myself a performance coach.
I apologize.
But I've struggled, but no, it's fine. It's fine. I've struggled to find the right term for it.
Okay.
The reason why is because it's kind of a global thing to me. It's actually difficult for me to, like, some of the work I do with people is literally, for example, how much is this technical, right? Like how you think through a spot is that technical? Is that
I see what you're saying.
Mindset?
The line
like,
is blurred a bit.
I don't quite know. Yeah. And so obviously there's like a sense of like technical know-how, but if you can't consider your technical know-how, or if certain things cause you to consider certain parts of your technical know-how that aren't relevant, I don't know, it becomes difficult. But so for that reason to say, I think it's a way bigger piece than most people give credit for, to be honest.
I agree. Yeah.
And especially at the higher you move up, the more important it is, I would say.
I agree with that. Yeah.
I think you can get by mid stakes, like 1K, 500 NL, 1K on a line with just technical expertise. I don't think you can move above that without either having exceptionally strong technical expertise, but even then that requires an ability to execute on that expertise that I think requires a lot of performance work. So
that's very well put. I like that. I mean, to implement some of that technical expertise, we have to have a good mindset.
I mean, you have to trust yourself. You have to, like, it's so many spots. So there are so many spots, even in really competitive games, where they're huge. There's spots where you can make a ton of money against even really great players. And when you have those senses, those intuitions that, like, this is just a hard spot to play well. I don't know any great player who like handcuffs themselves to a theoretically good answer, even when they have a strong intuition that something's really out of whack in a particular spot. And so, yeah.
Who's Jared the poker player? How'd you get into it? What's it look like for you now?
Yeah. So let's see. How did I get into it? I mean, I was actually running a card counting team when I was 21. Okay. Yeah. So I was running a blackjack team. I did that for actually 10 years, from like all my 20s. But early into that, I got bored of blackjack. I don't know if you guys have ever done card counting, but the cap on it is very low. You could become an expert card counter in 3 months.
Okay, not to interrupt you, but I will say, as of late, within the last couple weeks, I've heard 2 people tell me that they've done that, and I'm like, I always thought this as this like unicorn, like these people who can count cards, and it's so hard and it's magical.
No,
it's not as hard as I guess I thought made it out to be.
You'd have to dedicate yourself to it. Like if you're a very, I don't know. It's more about it's more like just putting in the time and hours to practice at it. So if you're not the kind of person who's going to dedicate a lot of hours and practice at something, it'd probably be difficult for you. But if you are the kind of person who could just sit down for a few months and just really grind away at something, like, no, it's fine. Honestly, there's some intangible skills about not getting caught that are harder to learn. And so if you're good at playing the whale and stuff like that, that can be fun for people. And there's more of a skill to that. But the actual, like, just having an edge at blackjack is incredibly simple.
Okay.
So that got really repetitive. So quite shortly after that, I just was in casinos a lot, but didn't want to play blackjack. Had always been interested in poker. Thought I was good at it. I wasn't. Because it's just like playing, games with friends and stuff, and was winning those and thought, like, I'm a legend at this. But But started going into casinos more, playing live cash games. And then I was ended up in Florida, and I was playing live cash games fairly and getting good at live cash. Must have been, let me think about what year this was, like, 2015, so live cash. I mean, I guess live cash doesn't change much probably, but you could get by on very little know-how and just a lot of aggression. And that was all I was doing, is just always putting the money in, like just really getting after it and doing well. And then then I was in Florida, and I started getting into some of the private game scene there. Playing in bigger and bigger, like, private games. Again, just thinking I'm like God's gift to poker. And so it was in that
I feel like
time,
that's the natural thing for most people. Everybody thinks they're the greatest at it, but continue.
Yeah. Well, so then I went from that to like, okay, I'm just going to take people I've, heard that the people think online is so hard. I bet it's easy. So just started to play like 200 NL cash games and just getting wrecked in 200 NL cash. And so just started, but I'm very competitive, just started studying a ton, actually. And so my advice mirrors my own story, because I was studying a ton. I was worked my way up. I was a mild winner at 1K NL online on like ACR. Like
That's
a small
tough.
winner.
I mean, in what year roughly was this? Because I know now, like, there's a big gap between 1K on ACR and
500.
1K on like the American sites that
Oh, sure. Yeah.
On,
Yeah, this would have been, I was in the Navy at the time, so I was on deployment in Bahrain. So I'm trying to, that would have been 2021.
Okay.
2021.
I mean, that was a tough field.
It's not
then,
super
sure.
long ago. Yes, ACR. That's 1K on ACR is quite tough.
Yeah. Well, I will say that then I had hired at the time my now good friend Kevin Rabichow as a coach.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like a very moderate winner at 1K. Started working. Actually, I say working with. I think we probably had 2 coaching sessions together. But this is I think can reveal the value of it. There was one coaching session that he said that just shifted my game so much to where I went from like feeling like I was struggling to win 1KNL to feeling like winning at 1KNL is trivial, to feeling like this is easy. And all that happened was we were looking at a spot, we were looking at population data, and we were looking at like what, small blind versus button in 3-bet pots. And basically what we were seeing is that when small blind c-bets in a 3-bet pot from out of position, that they don't fold very much, that they just like are overcalling. So he was like, okay, so this is just a spot we probably should never raise as a bluff, and we should just always raise as value. Seems obvious. But to me, I was like, well, what do I do when I'm in a line and I only have value? Like I only have sets or like 2 pairs or something. And then like a flush completes on the turn.
Yeah.
And like, what do I do now? Like, I just only have great hands. I'm playing a line where I only have great hands. If I face aggression, I'm basically range folding or range calling, And his response was just like, yeah, that's a tough spot to be in. And like,
welcome to poker.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. But like, that's just, and then what he said was like, I just think great players like don't avoid getting in those spots.
Yeah.
And it just like but it just like opened up my mind to like, oh, you can just do whatever you want. This is like a strange thing to realize, but like I'd been studying so much that so much of my game had been around what's right, what's correct, and then realizing that like, oh, I can just do whatever,
Yeah, I'm glad you put it that way, and I think a lot of people fall under that. Like they just play what's correct instead of what they want to do, and sometimes I think, I mean, Wes might scoff at this because Wes is very much more theoretically studied than I am. He's definitely he plays high stakes online cash and all that good stuff. So and in those environments, you do kind of need to know a lot more of that stuff than, for example, mid stakes live compared to me, like where it's more exploitative, etc. But
well, in both, I would say both. It's important to know where the game is just theoretically bounded. And this is true. Like, but again, right? Like, there's some things where it doesn't matter. I guess I shouldn't say it doesn't matter, but the situations in which certain decisions are good will be so rare that it's better to just assume they will never exist. I mean, that's still like theory can help that. And I do theoretical coaching sometimes still. And my general sense is I am just trying to, this is a balance point that I'm trying to find with people. Is like how much there are people who are just like, well, I'm just going to do what I think is good and always running whatever exploit. And they don't realize like, dude, you're overbetting with a combo that is just it can't be good. Like you can't describe a player's strategy in which this is good.
Okay.
And so it's worth saying, like, at some point you do have to do the work, and every player would benefit from theoretical study. I don't want to negate that. But especially if you're playing live, it's very possible that the biggest gains in your game are not those spots, right? That those spots where you're getting those things wrong, you're bleeding money. But the spots where somebody is bluffing at you in a 400 big blind pot, and they never have it because of the way the line went.
Yeah.
They literally never have it, and you get to call with ace high, right? So like those spots are probably worth the most money, for you as a live player. So like it's still worth considering. But like again, even this, like it's good to feel this personal sense of agency over what do I spend my time improving, right? I don't have to become a better theoretical player, just like I don't have to become a better exploitative player. And there's a lot of comfort in realizing, like, yeah, there's just parts of my games I'm going to leak money, and I don't have to change that fact.
Yeah.
That can just be the fact, and I don't have to do anything about it.
Did that decision, I guess,
Totally.
then did that open your decision tree then in specific spots? Is that where the freedom came? Is that kind of where it became, I don't know if more fun or more profitable? But you said like after that aha moment, that's when it clicked for you. I wish I had that aha moment in 1K no limit, but I have not had that. I actually played 1K no limit, to be honest.
I had an example of this hand literally from yesterday that I played 1K no limit online, and it was so it was the rec, the VIP of the table.
Sure.
I opened queens in the hijack. He 3-bet from big blind, and we can actually like.
It's already spooky.
Small. Well, no, but this guy's like, guy's all over.
Okay.
Yeah, and so queens actually we can theoretically flat here, but 4-bet seems fine too. So I 4-bet. He called, and we had the king 7-3 flop, and I think people would just like auto bet 20 to 25% in my position.
Sure.
After he checks. But I just checked back because I'm like, okay, like I don't have to just click that 25% button because that's like standard in a 4-bet pot on this board, maybe. Plus, like if this guy can have, I don't know quite how wide his range is, but if he has like the 8-5 suited here, that's how I want to keep all of that in there.
Well, there's also lots of spots where the best way to get all the money in is just to check.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Right. And I think that's a thing a lot of people don't realize too. I have a fun hand. I was playing. Sorry, do you want to finish your hand?
Oh, I mean,
that's the heart of your point. Yeah.
That's the main point. I think he bet turn. I called check river, and he had 10. So like we probably get one street anyways. But it is sort of the realization that, like you said, you can do whatever you want, and especially against someone who's a rec player, like they're not going to figure out anything from that.
Dude, great players aren't going to figure out anything. Like, and this is the point I make. This is the point I try to make to people all the time. Like, people are bad at learning. Like, just get out there and fuck around. Like, but anyway, I was playing in this big private game in Austin recently, and this is a fun hand. So, but we're mid Squid Game. I don't know how much of your audience would be familiar with Squid Game. It's basically a bounty based on winning pots. But like there's like a little extra money for winning a pot. And it's paid by the people who don't win pots. And there's like a limited number of hands. But either way, we're in this hand. So because of this, though, there's a lot of limping in this game strategy. So I'm in the hijack, I think. Hijack cutoff, something like that. Probably hijack. I have queen 4 suited. I limp. The bounty is quite large in this game. I have yet to win a button, so like there's a lot of extra incentive for me to play.
Mm-hmm. I assume open limping the queen 4 suited isn't your
standard.
Well, that's. I'm trying to explain. This isn't an insane decision, but what matters is that I get squeezed by small blind by some, live pro, but for all intents and purposes, recreational.
Okay, sure.
Get called by big blind. There's a straddle on, he folds. I call. Flop comes king of clubs, queen of clubs, 3 of diamonds, we'll say.
Okay.
I have queen 4 of spades. It goes check, check, and I check.
Okay.
Turn comes the 7 of clubs.
Okay.
Guy who raised bets pot. Guy folds, I call.
Okay.
River comes 10 of hearts.
Okay.
Guy jams 2x pot. And I just flicked in a chip.
Just snapped him with second pair.
Well, I literally said this. I said on turn, I'm not going to fold. So I just threw in a chip. And he just goes ace 3 off. And so I just wheeled over queen 4. But like, this is a spot where it's like, dude, you just don't have it. Like, I don't know. This could be a difficult thing to explain, but like, you squeezed, you're not checking a flush draw. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just not happening. And then you're not 2xing a straight. Like, you just don't
doesn't
have
make
it.
sense. Right.
Right. You just don't have it.
He might check top set, but with the flush, he's not
2x. He's not 2xing river with top set.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Because there's a 3 flush out there. So, right.
A 3 flush and 3 to a straight.
And 3 to straight. Yeah. So, like, it eliminate, like, 100% agree. And I will say, hold on, Wes, real quick. I will say that there's nothing sweeter than those convictions where you're like, they have absolutely nothing here. And you can just call with ace highs in these big bloated pots just to scoop big ones. I love
obviously, this is the spot where the most difficult thing is just for me to realize. It's for me to think about what is your best bluff, if that makes sense? Like your best showdown bluff. That's the hardest thing for me to determine in this spot. But to be fair, if you're never getting in spots where you call and get beat by a bluff, you're just not calling enough. Like you're just not trying enough. Like I can't tell you the amount of times. I mean, it's not a ton of times, but I have called and gotten beat by a bluff before. Yeah. And if totally out of line things aren't happening like that, your game doesn't have enough power to it. Like I don't know how else to describe it. Like Phil Galfond, when he used to evaluate himself after he was playing those heads up matches, one of the metrics he would evaluate himself on is what he would call power, which is like just going for it, right? Like, just like, you don't have anything, I'm going all in to bluff you. Or like, I don't think you have it, I'm calling. And your power is just, that's a thing. If you have a lot of power in your game, you're going to be going thin for value and lose a lot. You're going to be bluffing and, get called by absurd hands. And if you're going to call and get beat by bluffs, if those things have never happened to you, you're just not getting after it enough.
100% agree.
Yeah. What I was going to say is if we as the player notice, we just got called down by second pair, the adjustment there's, I probably should be jamming top set, like 2x jamming, even with the flush coming in. I should be going thin for value here, but I agree, you're right that people just aren't doing that to start off. And probably here's how almost everyone will think in that spot. They see you call with queen 4, they will think, what an idiot, and they will move on. That is what will happen.
Instead of adjusting and just start overbetting your actual value.
Yeah. To be fair, how thin does this guy have to start going before my call is bad? Right? Like probably pretty thin. Yeah. And so there's also this point too where people can adjust and still not be adjusting enough. They think their adjustment is like, let me get in there with kings. And it's like, no, I'm still calling you. Like it doesn't, kings is not enough. You have too many like who knows how many bluffs you're firing in this spot, right? Yeah. You have to shut down all your bluffs. That's the thing that you need to adjust. Stop bluffing or I'm just going to keep calling you, And so like a lot of people don't even have their hands on the dials that matter to adjust. And I'm going to assume you're one of those people until you show me otherwise.
For sure.
Yeah.
No, I think.
Yeah. Continue, Wes.
I just say, I think Max and I, like, when I think of people whose dials I know, it's like, I know Max so well that we actually can do that to each other. Like, the sweetest thing ever, Max, was when I check min raise the river. You explained to me how you knew this was value.
Don't
you
bring
folded
this up
and I
ever
showed
again.
you the bluff. And that might be my favorite.
I literally gave him the verbal speech. I'm like, this is never a bluff. We were playing heads up, I think. But I was like, I was like, this is never a bluff. This is always a value. You always think I'm getting called here. And then he exploited the gotta be, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and then he shows me, and then he windmills. But then you know how, as I was mentioning earlier too, like I think what didn't piss me off was losing the hand, but just how much joy he got from just owning my soul.
Yeah.
That
But
was
like
the
to be
true
fair,
value.
like
I know how you're gonna feel from this. Like
you know,
you might
you know
have
what's
called if I check jammed.
but you know what's an important thing from this though is I do think like the sense of like he owned my soul is actually what gets in the way of people extrapolating the useful information. Is people do make things way too personal.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah,
Way
I do
too
agree.
personal. And so like so much happens. I have another hand that I'll explain this that I think explains this point well. Same game against the same kid. He owns me this time, so we'll give him credit. Flop comes down monotone. He's in like the again hijack, low jack, and I'm in the straddle. I think I defended Jack 9 off with the Jack of Diamonds. He bets quarter pot on like 2 Broadway monotone boards. So I have a diamond and a gut shot. I basically click it back on monotones, which in theory is just the size you typically check raise. So you can go thin enough for protection with all kinds of combos, right? But I slightly over click it back, but virtually I click back. He calls. Turn comes a blank. I go 2/3. He calls. River comes a blank. I go 2/3. He jams. I have jack high. I fold. He shows me 10-2 of hearts, like 10 high, no flush draw, no nothing. He just called me all the way down to jam.
Oh my.
Okay, so but here's a spot where I think it's very easy for people to fixate on things that feel personal and assume something personal happened. Right? So either I like was clearly bluffing and he picked up on it, or like he's insane, or like they're focusing on all of these like identity things. Like it's so easy. We're narrative creatures. We want to tell a story that like he's the bad guy or I'm the good guy somehow, or somehow I did something stupid and he did something brilliant. And I genuinely think this guy has never seen a min click check raise in his life and just thought something weird was up and just called down.
Just went with his gut.
It just went with his gut, right?
Yeah.
This is a completely impersonal fact. How do I adjust about this? I have no clue. Because I don't know if the next time I min click check raise him, it clicks for him like, oh, this guy just does this, right?
Yep.
Like I don't know if that continues to be true. I have no idea. And so the truth is probably nothing should change about my game for now. And probably he just did something that in expectation is terrible. I will just have a flush here and just call him very often.
Yeah.
You know, and so he will just punt a ton of money into me in a spot where he should give me nothing.
Yeah.
And probably, or, you know, it's possible that it's true that maybe I did something behaviorally that led him to, but like, I have no reason to think that. And I think this people do not examine impersonal points of why things happen nearly enough. Where it's like there's just things that have nothing to do with either of you. Something about the hand struck somebody as weird and they just went for something. And I think the less personal you make things, the actually better you get at attending to those facts and the better you get at understanding where people are at in their headspaces during actual play.
I battled that myself for sure, where it's probably something that is completely unrelated to me, but where I feel like I may have done something that they picked up on and then are just running me over but there's literally nothing that I can actually think of. I mean, it's possible that something was like that, but there was, you know, it could have just been nothing at all, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
Yeah.
And I tell people to say this to themselves more often, just like, I don't know.
yeah.
Just say to yourself, I don't know.
That's
and
a
just move
great
on.
poker answer, honestly.
Yeah,
I just don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. It's funny. I mean, I can think of a lot of examples of that. It's like there's a guy online who in the chat told me like, God, every time I have like a clear bluff, you just have an easy call like for years. Or in live poker, it's like, oh, if you 3-bet someone, you know, 4 times in an hour, it feels really personal to them. But like to you, you're like, I had the
aces
top of my
each time.
range for it.
Yeah.
Like, of course I did. And you know, someone will remember this big. Like I heard a story of someone who I turned a gutter against their set in this massive pot. My buddy was telling me about this guy who was talking about it at the table. I'm like, I have no idea. But it like for the person who's on the losing end of it, it feels like, oh, whether it's personal or it's just like, this person just owns me or is lucky against me.
Well, that's the narrative
And,
I think Jared was speaking of. If I'm
exactly. And so
and
yeah,
I'm gonna give people a very easy tool to stop doing this. It's just start saying to yourself more, this happened and I don't like it. It's that simple. Like that's all that's happening here. It's when we get into the storytelling, it's just because it's very easy for us to want to view the world. There's something called the drama triangle in psychology, and it's very easy. The drama triangle is basically you have like hero, persecutor, victim, and it's very easy for us to want to view the world in this way. And so it's our natural tendency when we're going through something that we don't like. It's like, okay, well, I must be the victim, and I need to find a persecutor. I need to find someone who's persecuting me. Or you know or maybe I'm the persecutor. Maybe I've done something wrong and like they're the victim or you know something like that. It's just a way of trying to make the world more manageable to ourselves and more understandable and give us like a way to navigate.
That makes sense. And that perspective is going to look different to each person. Like you can be the persecutor in your instance, and to them you're the hero or the victim or whatever. Anyways,
well, most human conflicts are around these identities of roles, right? If you think about like couples who are fighting, they're just trying to fight over who's the victim. They're trying to fight over who's the persecutor.
That reminds me of some old relationships. Yeah.
But that's why
that's where my mind went. Yeah.
But the truth is, we're all just in pain, right? And the more mature outlook is to realize like, oh, something happened to you, you don't like, you're upset about it. Something happened to me, I don't like, and I'm upset about it. And so it's actually really helpful at the table to just say to yourself, I don't like this. Like this thing just happened. I don't like it. And again, get closer to like the more fundamental part of the experience. And it can kind of get out of this, like notice the thinking, but then come back to just like, you know what? Something's just happening that I don't like. And that's really what this is.
I have a question for you, something that I kind of want to ask on behalf of myself, but also something that I'm sure that you've probably discussed with your clients in regards to performance coaching, but emotional ceilings holding people back. Like what's one way that or something that you could give a tool or an experience, anything that could maybe help someone bust through an emotional ceiling to maybe improve their game? Does that make sense?
I guess I would ask, what do you mean by emotional ceiling?
So, like, for example, like, you lose a hand and you're tilting. How can we recover? How do we just not experience tilt the next time so that it doesn't affect our decision making negatively next time? Or is that maybe something you don't even work on with your clients? Wes?
Or is it like what you said earlier, like just kind of acknowledge I feel tilt or I didn't like that?
I mean, does it just align with that? Yeah.
I mean, for some people, it depends on the nature. It depends on the nature of the tilt a little. Some people are tilting very extremely, and there's some real deep traumatic response happening. That's just genuinely what is going on. Like it's if you feel significantly out of control in a moment where there's just like it feels like there's nothing you can do. You don't even have the wherewithal. Like you couldn't apply advice if I gave it to you, right? Like you're probably your mind is in survival mode, right? It has detected something as a significant threat to you, and it has taken the reins from you. And for those examples, my genuine best advice is you need to work with somebody.
Okay.
Like you need to genuinely, like there's a lot of advice, and I've done a lot of meditation. There's a lot that you can do to help yourself. There's a lot, but I can just, be honest about this. I grew up in an abusive household. Part of the reason I'm so passionate about like mental health and well-being is because my own struggles that I've overcome. There have been clear areas of my own emotional difficulty that were never going to be touched by my work alone. They required a relationship.
Okay.
Because they were caused by a relationship. And there are some things that I do think the answer ultimately is to like know how to welcome in an experience. But there are some experiences that are just so great for you that like you are unlikely to do that alone, and that the experience needs to be held with somebody else.
Okay.
And they need to be the support that welcomes it, that can feel warmly towards you. And this is honestly also why I think it's so important people don't try to get mental game coaching or theory coaching from anyone who treats them poorly, from anyone who's like kind of mean or judgmental or like, oh, you just need to like be better or like just stop being, so impulsive, or, because if you have real, again, for lack of a better word, this word gets overused today, but like a traumatic response happening to something, the thing you need more than anything is kindness and care. And that will heal the experience. I've experienced it myself. That's why I'm a proponent of this, is I've had very strong reactivities to things and stories that come up that feel certain to be true. But almost always when you have like this strong sense that like that guy's bullying me or something like that, in psychological terms, this is known as like an implicit memory.
Okay.
And implicit memory is not a memory you recall like visually or like you see the story of, but it's all the emotional affect of the original event happening. And so something triggers what is literally a memory of feeling bullied, feeling whatever. And now you're responding as though that's true because the feelings
like defensive
are
maybe
happening.
Or
it can be defensive. It can be offensive, though. It can be. It can be. It can be. It can be all kinds. It can be all kinds of things. It can be just to resign, right? Some people just feel like. Some people are having experiences where they just feel like helpless and they can't do anything.
Yeah.
And pathetic, and just like, and they don't know how to shake out of it. And what they're experiencing is memory. They're not actually experiencing. They're experiencing a time where they remember feeling helpless and that no one was going to help them. They couldn't do anything or powerless. And it's only once that can be identified as what I call the present sense of the past and can be like treated warmly and treated kindly that experience can heal. That was a very long answer to that, but
no, it's a good answer. And I think it makes a lot of sense. And I hope Wes is taking notes, because he's the one that, really treats me like shit in those deep moments when I need something.
Oh, please. Actually, I'm sure if you put just our words on a transcript and no one could hear the context, like I'm sure they would think that.
I mean, hey, we have all different. I mean, it's also important to have all kinds of different roles, in our lives, and having friends that, hey, I was in the Navy. I have friends who would never say a kind word to me if I was going through something difficult, and plenty of times that's exactly what I needed. But also, I will say though that putting those issues aside, because you talked about like responding to tilt. If something's happening and there's a different sense of agency that can come along, like you somewhat feel with it, you somewhat feel like you're relating to something, you somewhat feel like you're making decisions, and yet you seem to often make the same kinds of decisions, that is where I would go back to, more intentional presence, more, expanding your circle of tolerance is like a way to think about it. Like expanding the circle at which you can experience things and not feel the need to change something. Because the more you work to kind of find the edges of like, hey, where can I have a feeling and not feel like I need to do something to fix it? That's actually where you find freedom in what behaviors you take, right? Is like, I can be under extreme duress and not feel like I need to do anything. And so I can still act freely. I can still act in the ways that feel aligned with my, one thing I would encourage people that's coming to mind right now also is to, in those moments, if you're emotionally under emotional stress, I think a lot of people have this kind of commitment to try to follow like good theoretical or poker heuristics when they can't think clearly. Mm-hmm. I would encourage people to try to take actions that are more aligned with their values.
Can you give an example of that, maybe how that would?
So like, let's say if you value being competitive, standing up for yourself, like you value like not backing down, and you get into a spot where you're not sure if you should bluff, run the bluff.
Okay. Because
it's going to be far easier for you to feel good about your decision if it aligns with your values than if it doesn't.
Okay.
And so feeling good about yourself and that you're, again, this is a really important part. Like nothing gives you more durability and resilience in anything than feeling good about yourself. Like if you feel good about who you are, it's easier to learn, it's easier to take feedback, it's easier to all of that if you have a strong sense of who you are. And so sensing in a moment, like, and beforehand, take the time to write down your values. I can give you guys a link for this. Maybe you guys can put it in the description. When I onboard people, I often have them pick their top 10 values. I give them a list of words and just say like, write down the top 10 that stand out to you and narrow it down to a top 3 values, like most important values to you. And I would take those into your games. When you get into a spot and you're not sure what to do, sense what you're feeling and try to be with it. And then if you still don't feel like you know what to do, I would encourage people to like commit to a decision that aligns with your values.
Can
If
I
you
ask,
value, yeah, go ahead.
just a follow-up question in regards to that. What if aligning with our values? And I completely, let me just kind of preface this with, I 100% agree that as long as I'm feeling good, I'm happy with my decision, right? What if that isn't aligned with making the most profitable decision?
Mm,
What do we do then? Are we just not supposed to be playing poker then if it doesn't make you see what I'm
mm.
saying? Like, what if the profitable decision doesn't make us feel good? Like, are we just not in the right area? Does that make
Well,
sense?
yeah, but I think there's this big misconception that in any spot we know what is the most profitable decision. And even in retrospect, that we know what is the most profitable decision. We don't know. Right. And being a profitable poker player is more about the process that we are partaking in than it is any decision in a vacuum. And I think an integral part of that process that is non-negotiable is that you make decisions that make you feel good about the way you play.
I like that a lot. It's hard for me to digest, but I like that. And I think that's something I could work on personally.
So
Yeah.
I'm curious because I actually would not have thought of it that way. Because one of the things that I feel like for me leads me to becoming a better poker player and has at several points in my
Mm,
poker career is like recognizing that the areas for improvement in my game are those spots where I am doing what's comfortable and
mm,
realizing like, oh, I should actually do what's uncomfortable
mm.
because the reason I'm not making the quote unquote correct play in these specific spots is because for whatever reason, these are the most uncomfortable ones.
Sure. Well, one, it's possible that a value of yours is challenging comfort. Also, I think this is
Yes,
worth pointing
that's
out,
fair.
right? So possibly just pushing yourself is a value of yours.
I would
Yeah,
agree
or
Right.
with
like
that from an
being
outside perspective.
getting the
Yeah.
closest to correct kind of regardless of my comfort level, just sort of like doing what's best regardless of comfort level might be the way to put it.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard because again, we could start arguing about what is best, which is a challenging just to know, right? But what matters is that you are actually aligning with your values by doing that, right? By
Mhm.
examining your comfort level and trying to see. And so there's this way in which this is actually you are aligning with your values by doing that, and that's maybe why you have felt so much improvement and reward, and it's been sustainable for you. There's also, I mean, I am not one to say that, let's say that someone doesn't value that. They really value comfort, right? They
Mhm.
really value not challenging themselves. I do not think that that person should never challenge the decisions that they are very comfortable with.
Yep.
I'm saying like they should at some point. I'm saying doing that will be easier if it's taken place in a context of generally feeling good about themselves, generally feeling right that their decisions are ones that they can feel with, and feeling like it's an agentful choice. They're not being pushed into discomfort. They're not being
Mhm.
forced into discomfort when they don't like it. That it's a choice they're making. It's something that they decide that they are doing it because they realize, you know what, I want to get better, and I've gotten really good at these things. It's time I turn my attention to this stuff because I'm noticing this is really causing a lot of problems. And you just have to go on your journey. And I think whatever your strengths are, they might not be challenging discomfort, but whatever they are, those things will support you in challenging whatever your weaknesses are, you know? So you take myself, I have always been a more creative than disciplined player, right? And my my game always suffered when I tried to be more theoretically sound than creative. Right. My game was never quite. Now that's not true for everybody. Some people again might be the opposite. But that for me, the more I try to just be like disciplined and do things, what's also true for me is I learn a lot from making mistakes personally. That's not true for everybody. Some people can plan ahead and avoid the mistakes before they happen. That's not me. Like I need things to go wrong to learn from it. And so by actually navigating around things going wrong by trying to play well, I was hurting myself. I was cutting my legs out from underneath me because what
Mhm.
helps me learn personally is things going wrong and
Yeah.
me seeing it go wrong
Yeah.
and being like, "Oh, that was terrible." And so like it's a really important part of my process for me to have things go wrong, but then to turn that creativity on my study methods, to turn that in, excitement and creativity and fire for doing whatever I want, and realizing that some study will help me do that better.
Yeah.
Right. Similarly, if you're really good at studying and you're very theoretically sound, there will be lots of spots where you do not have the answer. And you have not studied it. You do not know. The spot is too unique, or the game is too big. You don't have the answer. It's too strange. And you kind of have to come up with something, you know? And so I do think that if you turn towards your strengths, eventually you will discover like every domain that is useful as a poker player. I think they all lead to each other eventually. I just think you need to start from where you are.
Yeah, that's well said.
Yeah, and I think I align a lot with you in terms of how, you know, Wes and I are completely different. I think that's one thing that makes this podcast, you know, flourish like it has, is our completely different perspectives. I think you kind of nailed it with Wes, and the way that he learns is he wants to challenge himself, and he takes that on, and that's good for him. And for me, like for me personally, I need to fail to be able to recognize where I've gone wrong. And I find myself trying to be more creative, and when I try and be more theoretical is when things get out. I don't, it just doesn't, things don't line up for me as well.
Yeah.
That,
you know, that this is kind of similar, but both in, so I listened to your podcast with Chris Brewer, and this point came up, and it sort of aligned with a question that Max, I think one of our listeners at the tournament yesterday, asked both of us for like a suggestion for an episode. And his question was like, you should do an episode on how do you lose the least amount of chips in a spot. And then the point that Chris Brewer made, Jared, in your podcast was like, if you face a half pot bet on the river, you should call if you think you're going to win over 25% of the time. So like you could lose if you're losing almost 3/4 of the time when you call a half pot river bet. It probably feels terrible, but that's actually perfect, you know?
yeah.
And you know, my response to this listener of ours was like, well, you know, you kind of just do what gives you the most EV. And like, if you're winning the maximum, that means you're putting a lot of chips in the middle, which means when you lose pots, you're going to lose more you know, you can't play perfectly. And so I think one thing that a ton of people in poker struggle with who are trying to be profitable players is like this idea that, let's say we face that half pot river bet. They kind of have the mindset of, the way to be the best player is to know when it's value and when it's a bluff, opposed to, let me think of all the possibilities of hands they could have, and just like, if I can beat over 25%, let's make the call and just accept the result. You know?
Yeah.
How do you get over that sort of a barrier?
Well, first, I want to acknowledge that for many people who struggle with it for good reason. There's probably a good instinct that in many spots things are not balanced. And so if you're a live player who plays in this way, it often will be the case that either calling is torching or folding is torching. And I think that probably will be the case in more spots than not, especially river spots where like it's either one or the other. And I think that is part of what's really difficult, is that when they call and they're wrong, they have this instinct that is probably correct, that if they're wrong here, that actually means more than just being wrong here. That being wrong here means I probably am wrong a lot more than I realize. That being said, I think it's important to just let yourself be wrong. Like, I think it's actually more, I would more lean into that than like thinking about the number of combos. So many spots are just an unknown. In my recent podcast with Owen, we talk a lot about just the value of seeing showdown, and that this is something that people don't value enough. That like just seeing showdown, seeing what hands people have. Again, I would just add more, just like, let's just see what this is. Like, I don't really know. If you're in a spot where you're like, even if you're in a spot where you're like, I don't know what to do, just call. Like, just call, right? Just call and see what it is. And just like see what that person has and learn from it. And I think so much is made so much easier in poker when each hand you play is not a performance but practice. Like, if each hand does not feel like this is the test of me playing and I need to get this right, but this is me learning. Every hand is me learning. I'm just every hand I'm trying to learn something. Then when you call and you're wrong, it's not like it doesn't have all this meaning to it, you know? Like,
Yeah.
and I think bringing that mindset into the moment of calling or not can help a lot. And just to like reduce a little bit of the pressure of it.
I think, yeah, that's what I'm getting. Like reducing the pressure is a great way to put it, and just viewing it as practice too, because like that also reminded me of this. I don't have a specific example, but let's say we're 25 bigs deep, we open cutoff, big blind shoves, we call with ace 10 suited. You know, it's a spot where we're technically supposed to call, but like could very easily be in bad shape too.
Yeah.
And let's say our opponent has king jack suited. You know, I've had that experience where someone at the table looks at me as like, great call. And in my head, I'm sort of like, oh, I didn't read him. I didn't have this read that he had it or that he didn't have it. I'm just like,
well, the
going
earlier
with the default, you know.
Well, the earlier you get in the game, literally the game's like pre-flop, and this is, you know, we talked about this before, the more things are bounded by the theory, right? So the more things are just bounded by pot odds, the more things are just bounded. Like if it's easier to just be wrong in the sense of like you just need to call. Like,
for sure. And so I think one thing that a lot of our tournament listeners may struggle with a bit is like sort of that release of trying to control everything. I'm calling it off here with ace 10 suited, and I'm going to lose my stack a lot of the time here.
Yeah.
But like in the long run, it's probably going to be slightly profitable. So I'm just kind of letting go and doing it. And it's like, it's not because I knew this was the time or anything.
Well, I think what they're struggling with there is the lack of knowledge, right? The lack of knowledge of if it's good or not. Because
that's
you might have the benefit of the knowledge that it's winning in the long run, whereas a player who doesn't know the spot and they call and they're behind does not know. So there's this like, you know, again, I had a teacher of mine who said any experience of anxiety is really just our tolerance for what we can control or don't know.
Yeah.
And so when things cause us anxiety, it's not the not knowing and the lack of control that causes us anxiety. It's our tolerance level for it.
Yeah.
And so I think in those moments, again, to come back to the experience of like, I don't know if that was good, because I don't want to push people to just be like, be okay with the fact that it's good winning in the long run, because the truth is there might be lots of decisions they're making that aren't good in the long run. But it's actually to say like, hey, you made a decision, you thought it was good at the time, and now you don't know if it was good. And can you just let yourself be like, again, I would go back to the two statements I told people to say to themselves more often. I don't know, and I don't like it.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's just that simple. Like, okay, I don't know what happened and I don't like it. And the conclusiveness of that can help you get out of like these thought spirals of trying to solve something or like, where do I go with this? And I'm frustrated. Just all that's happening right now is like, I don't know if that was good and I don't like it. And the more you open to that, the easier it is to make the calls that just you think are good, because you're not so worried about it being wrong. Because when people fold in a spot where it is just good, they're avoiding the feeling of not knowing and not liking it. That's what's happening.
I agree.
Right? They're avoiding that experience of like, it's so awful to be leaving this tournament hall having no clue if I punted or not, that I'm just going to fold and never put myself in those shoes. And I'm only going to do it when I know I have a story I get to tell my friends about how unlucky I got. And
you guys mind if we just take a quick bathroom break and then start doing some wrap up questions?
Sounds good.
I appreciate it. 30 seconds. I'll be right back.
Yep, no worries.
So I guess we can just ask a few. I don't want to take too much of your time, but we'll wrap it up with a few questions. We do have a question we ask everybody, and then I'll give you time for your plugs. I do think, Wes, did you have some further questions, Wes?
I mean, yes and no.
I had one. Hang on, I had one more thing I wanted to say just before we get into this, if that's all right, because I was just thinking about this experience of like making a decision and like not knowing what's best. And one of the stories that I just like people to hear is, there was this old historian who used to say that, like, you know, people used to, you know, we look back over history often and be like, oh, so-and-so should have done this, so-and-so should have done this. Have you guys heard of the term fog of war? It's fairly common, especially in video games, but the term fog of war, it's this idea of like what you can't see at the time of a conflict, right? Because there's so much going on. And this historian used to say, like, yeah, when people look back at these stories of history, like well, he started off by saying, every man goes into world and charts his own path through the fog of war. And when they look back, it's easy to see the man and to see the path, but no one sees the fog. And I think this is so important for our own poker play, that when we look back over our decisions with hindsight, that we do not give credit to the fact that when you're making a high pressure decision in a complex game like poker, there's a lot of fog. And so it's so easy to look back and be like, oh, I see that guy. I see him making the decisions. And then to give no credit to the fact that there was a lot of fog in the midst of any decision. And just like give yourself some grace for that fact. Like, there was a lot I did not know in that moment. And to be like, yeah, I didn't make the best decision, but it was really hard to make the best decision in the midst of an intense moment that I really wanted to make the best decision about.
I think that's a great way to describe that. That makes so much sense. And I think a lot of people forget that there's fog, though. Does that make sense? They're just like, they don't understand how difficult that decision, or they don't give themselves the grace, as you said, to say that the decision was hard in the moment, because it's so clear hindsight, right?
Yeah, well, it's because they get spewed nonsense by so many people who pretend there isn't fog, and who pretend that like good performance is there not being fog and you just being able to like execute
Point too. Yeah.
But it's not. There's like, I consider myself fairly advanced at being like present and self-aware and thinking clearly, and I am muddled with nonsense in most decisions. It is extremely difficult to think clearly, and that's just true for everybody. And there's going to be all kinds of situations where the moment you click call, the thing snaps into your mind of
Exactly.
like, oh, that was a terrible call. Like, I know right now that was a terrible call. And like, and just like, I think normalizing that experience for yourself can do a lot of work for your own mental health, but also just your own progress forward.
I think that's great. It's probably a good place to start wrapping things up. Wes, did you have any last few questions before we get into that? I know we touched on a lot of the topics,
I do want to ask one more, because we've been focusing, I think, a bit more on when things go the way you don't want them to. The last question I have is like, winners tilt. Let's say things have been going great. I think sometimes the biggest downswings can happen after that. How do we keep ourselves in check when things have been going super well?
I mean, I'd give you the same advice for when things are going poorly, which is more or less like, don't tell yourself stories about it, because all things aren't permanent. And so the stories you tell yourself are going to change. And it's like, Max's experience with flow state. It is more the way you relate to the positivity than the positivity itself. So relating to it is like, oh, this went well, therefore I am great. Like, this is a better version of me, this version. Well, then when things start to change, as they naturally will, now it starts to feel like, oh, I'm a worse version of me, and I need to fix this version of me. And all the behaviors we see that come out of that are from trying to fix that version of you. But if you just go on a huge upswing and you, again, go to the opposite of the statements I told you to say, like, I like this. This is great. It's not I'm great. It's I like this. Like, I like this experience. This is enjoyable. This is fun. And the more you just like let the experience be what it is, which is like, I'm really happy that I'm winning right now. I'm not better. Doesn't mean I'm great or I'm good or this is a better version of me. It just means I like it, and it feels good, and just let it feel however it feels.
I agree. And I think a lot of people use that feeling though to justify all of a sudden making poor plays because the win got to their ego, if that makes sense.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's certainly possible. I mean, it depends on, you can think you're invincible, but it's really hard. Again, it's really hard to say that doesn't also just tune your aggression in a direction that actually works better in the game. The question is the process. It's not like it can get to your ego and you can play better. Yeah. Right? That can happen.
Yep.
But we don't want playing better to be conditioned on something getting to our ego. But if we fixate on whether or not we play better, it's really easy to defend this process of like, I was playing better. Clearly it getting to my ego is good. Like, why wouldn't I want it to keep getting to my ego? And it's because it's not permanent.
Yeah.
It can't be permanent. You cannot sustain it. So the question is not, but again, the only way we get that is we remove emphasis on if it causes us to play better. It will make some people play better. It will make some people play worse. For both of them, it will be unsustainable.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, right. And so it really, the question is just, hey, and it's okay. It's like, okay, this is getting to my ego. Like I can feel that and I like it. But the moment you just let the experience be what it is, it becomes something that is impersonal, right? Like it getting to your ego is making something personal. This is about me, my identity, who I am. That is the same. That is what your ego is, right? So things went well. You won a bunch of hands, and now it's like, oh, I'm better. I can run these bluffs I wouldn't typically run. I'm like the sense that it's going to make. I'm going to win, because I feel this way. This is all storytelling based on a feeling. But if you just learn to say to yourself, like, pay attention to the feeling and just like the feeling, I just like this. It doesn't mean anything else other than that. Something's happening I like.
I'm a big proponent of simplifying things, and I think doing that is that's great. Yeah, that's fantastic.
Well, and like for me as a professional poker player, I know, looking back, I realized how much I struggled with like my identity just being based too much on my results. And it's like that means like I'm just, my entire life to an extent is sort of reliant on not having downswings, or just like it's going to feel like shit when I do have one for a while. And I think like over time, sort of realizing like, oh, I need to not do that. And just, like I need to, my life is my life. And yeah, like wins will feel great when they happen. And I want to focus on getting better at poker, but that doesn't mean like.
But for people, I just want to say too, for people who find themselves right now feeling like their identity rests a lot on the results, it is very impersonal to describe this as like a problem to be fixed. And it is almost certainly a tragic fact that something in your life has caused you to feel like how good I am at something determines how accepted or loved or cared for I will be. And that is reason why we attach so much to our results. It's just that. It's I want to be accepted as a part of this group of people. And I believe that if I do not win, that won't happen. And that is, again, I don't want to create the sense of struggle around feeling like the sense of desperation that can come around having good results and bring it down to a problem to be solved. Like it is, that is, yeah. And so it's just, I just know there's a lot of language that's like around this. It's like, oh, don't attach to your results. But the truth is, if your results feel really important to you, they feel really important to you for a reason. And it's the same thing. Like there's a need being expressed in that. And almost certainly I think that probably sums it up. But I just want to say that for the people listening to this, like if you're in the midst of, I've had moments where I attach a lot to my results. And the truth is, I want still to this day, I want people, to this day, I want people to think that I'm good at what I do.
Yeah.
Right. Too. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like I want people to think I'm great at it. It feels good. The question is, when people don't think I'm great at what I do, can I feel that also? Right. When people don't think I'm great at it, can I be like, I don't like this. I don't like when people feel this way. Yeah.
Yeah. It's important to recognize that side. I think it's easy to overlook. It's important to recognize.
Yeah, no, it's like, or if just maybe other people haven't changed how they think about my game, but it's like, I did, or I like, I know I put more pressure on myself than I would ever put on anyone else,
for sure.
And
it sounds like that's where you like being.
I actually do like, yeah, or I like putting pressure on myself because I feel like a lot of times this is sort of contradictory, but like I'm easygoing in a lot of ways, but like there's specific types of things where I want that kick in the ass, and
Yeah.
So. I mean, I think we all just learned a lot about, again, what it takes to who we have to be to receive like attention and love and care. And that's a lot of what comes out in poker. And I would hope for all of us that we feel that we don't have to do anything, right? That like nothing is contingent upon people caring or seeing the best in you and believing the best in you. And so like if something feels conditional upon that, that is like that's something in you that deserves care, not fixing, if that makes sense.
It does. It does.
That's a good way to put it in general. Just like not to think of all these things as fixing, but just like attention and care. And then
Yeah.
Nice. Jared, we have a recurring question on this podcast, and I'm very curious about your answer generally, because I don't know which way it's going to go. We get the entire spectrum here, but is poker an art or a science?
I think science is an art, so that's the answer I'm going to give you.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
We've gotten that one a couple times from other people. Do you maybe, and don't feel like you need to, but do you want to emphasize, or do you want to explore that a little bit, or what makes you think that?
Well, I think what a lot of people think of when they think of science is something like kind of linear. Like, so I distinguish in my coaching with people linear problem solving and what's the word? I say this a lot, and yet for some reason I can't think of the term right now. Something that happens all at once simultaneously, but I can't think of it.
Good
like
enough
global.
Okay.
Anyway, like linear or shoot.
I hate that.
Why can't I think of it, man? It's gonna drive me nuts. But like, yeah, like global problem solving. Like, it'll come to me at some point. But so people linear would be thinking like things like a math problem, right? So it's like you just go step by step, and if you just follow these same steps over any math problem, you get an answer.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's global problem solving that has to happen all at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Where there's problems I can give you where if you don't view the picture as one thing and find the unique solution that fits it, you're not going to solve it. So there's riddles that are like this, right? Where you can't go step by step. And most art is that. It's like a global solution. Okay. And poker is very much that. Like you're taking in a lot of information. And one of the main things why people who continually try to have like a clean thought process find it doesn't actually help them is because you can't think through things step by step in poker and get to good answers, generally speaking. Like you kind of have to take it all in at once and find the unique answer that fits for that. But science is very much this way. I think a lot of people think of science as something that is linear, but it is not. It's very much looking at the world, taking in the entire picture of things, and then coming up with something that accounts for all of the evidence we have in the body of knowledge better than whatever explanation we have currently. And so, yeah.
I think one of my favorite things about asking that question is the way the different answers we've received has changed my perspective on all of it. And for example, like science being an art, I completely agree. I did not see it that way at first. But yeah, it's and the way
well, if you know any great scientists, right? Like are passionate and like and creative. Like you have to, right? Because on the fringes of science, we need a new answer. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. We need a new description of how things of the current body of evidence.
So you have to create
something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
100% agree. And Wes, we had someone else, another guest on recently who gave us the same answer, I believe. I don't remember who it was. It was a very similar answer, but they kind of just science is the art, right? And it was only
there's art in science. Yes,
yeah. Like the only two people I think that have mentioned that. Usually, someone's on the other perspective, or they say both, like in a sense.
Both is a common answer. Yeah.
But thank you for taking the time to answer that question, to answer all of our questions. We've had a lot of them for you today. I know we've also had some scheduling issues. I don't know if a lot of our listeners are aware, but Mr. Wesley Cannon here had a little skiing accident last week where he hit his head. He hit his head and got a pretty nasty concussion. So he's been out of the mix for a while.
Well, okay, you want to hear the funny part of this that I kind of realized?
I don't even know. Part, but yeah,
I don't even know if it was the fall, because I remember a little while before I fell, when I was getting on the lift, the bar on the ski lift just dinged me in the back of the head, and I had my helmet on, but like I remember feeling a bit dazed after that. And I didn't really notice it, but then I had a pretty nasty fall. And I definitely got whiplash from that, but I don't know that I slammed my head from it. So it might have been like...
Well, let me explain something, Wes. Whiplash, you don't have to hit your head to get a concussion. The fact of your head going like this, your brain is smashing against your skull. So
yes,
that is definitely...
Okay, that...
could have been both. Yeah,
it could have been both. It could have been both. But yeah, I
definitely sound a lot more stupid now, though.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I haven't been able to understand a single word you said.
You guys have been really nice to me.
Oh, Jared, I love that. Thank you for joining me on that.
Yeah.
Jared, tell us
Just
about
edit out a half hour of it.
Yeah.
Tell us about where we can find you, what you got going on. Some plugs you might have.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, you can find me on YouTube at Jared Alderman Coaching. There, I have my own podcast, Seeking Balance. I do my own videos on performance, and I'm about to start doing weekly Plan Explains as well.
Okay.
And then in terms of coaching, I do one-on-one coaching. You can get information about that on my website, jaredalderman.com. And as well as I'm starting a group coaching program for people in poker where we're just going to tackle, it's going to be more focused on community, obviously, than the one-on-one coaching, but we're just going to tackle all the aspects of poker that matter. So I think the unique thing that I offer as a coach is that I don't think there's many areas of poker that I feel I cannot touch and give insightful information on. But I also have a vast network of really great players that are also going to be doing like guest speaking and things like that in the group. So if you follow my podcast, you see guys like Kevin Rabichow and all the other great people that are there. If I'm not the best person to speak on a topic that comes up in the group, I will definitely find them and they'll come in and talk about it. So
resourceful. I love it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, so yeah.
Thank
you guys so much for having me.
Yeah, no, it's been
Thanks
a
for being
pleasure.
here.
And for those listening, we will have links to all of Jared's stuff in the show notes where you can find him on, on socials, his website, all that good stuff. Definitely recommend checking out his podcast with if you just search his name in YouTube, you can even in Spotify, I found some different stuff he's done. So make sure to check all that out. And it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for being flexible with our schedules as Wes deals with this, transition from being smart to an idiot. And that's our love language, by the way.
This was his make a wish.
Yeah, that's so good. That's incredible.
I felt honored, to be honest, that Wes would reach out and ask for me. Happy to make a little boy's dreams come true.
All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed this awesome episode with Jared. We will catch you next week with a update on the WSOP schedule that just released. Really looking forward to chatting about that, as well as another guest that I'm going to leave secret at this moment, but a mixed game specialist. We will go ahead and leave it there. Jared, hang on the line for me for a moment. We'll go ahead and chat after we stop this recording. Guys, good luck on the felt this week.